I've always been more comfortable in nature outside rather than inside. When I was growing up in Massachusetts, almost in the summer especially, I almost never lived inside. Now I live in New York, and it's pretty strange, and I've learned to find kind of a way of dealing with nature in New York, but I really prefer spending a lot more time in Maine, and that's where my dogs are happy and where I'm happy. I don't do the sort of things that I used to do as a child. I don't race through the woods killing things and fishing, and I just like looking at it and being there. Well, the dogs have really given me a livelihood. That's something that I've certainly appreciated. The Weimaraners especially are very reflective. They're really comprised of, each hair is like a mirror. They change colors. They're just very lively even when they're not doing anything. They're very receptive to my looking at them. And of course, they're the most beautiful when they're in their own element, doing things like picking up scents. I notice when I'm photographing them, I want them to look a certain way in the studio, so I'll have to call them or toss a ball or hold something up. But in nature, their nose, they lead with their nose. So their nose moves first and then their eyes follow. They have a whole different internal mechanism. And if you're really quiet and you spend time trying to figure out what they're thinking about, it blows your mind. It's just not what you think about. So it's a parallel play that's going on. I'm playing, they're playing. Somehow we're cooperating. We're not really the same, and I think that's really interesting. The show is a retrospective of everything I've done that could possibly qualify as having some relationship to these ideas about nature, going back to my first works in the late 60s to a painting that I made and finished 3 weeks ago, just in time for the show, that I thought related very well to the architectural space, and it's the largest painting in the show, and if you care to look for it, I'm sure you'll understand that. So there are drawings, and the drawings tend to be funny. They're kind of amusing little squirts on the paper. There are small photographs in one of the rooms that I've taken with my own camera in nature with the dogs without any help. They're the Polaroids that are 20 by 24 inches image, and they were taken requiring lots of help and huge banks of light and almost like a film crew to make. And those are throughout the exhibition as well. Those are probably the works that I'm most known for. Works involving the dogs, sometimes dressed as characters. There's also, speaking of that, there's a film I made, which is being, there's a video version of it in one of the rooms called The Hardly Boys, and it's a parody of novels, a series of books for boys that I loved as a kid, and my dogs play these characters. Yeah, I was kind of trained as a painter from an early age because I loved it, and I was always drawing and painting, and I read books about it, and my uncle was a painter and I learned things from him. And so in high school I needed to get an A to get my grade point average up, so I took art. Just in time, my art teacher said, "You should go to art school." So I did, and there I found that art was much more than the kind of painting and illustration that I was thinking about. I got very caught up in contemporary ideas about art and found myself years later not painting but doing performances, writing, and ultimately getting a camera to document some of the things I was tossing off buildings or stuff that I was floating down rivers or whatever. And I just realized that, really the pictures that I'm taking are more important than the actual events and have probably a greater power ultimately